All right. We have question 3. We are going to answer the 11th house stellium as a quantum field generator. If you haven't seen my other videos, subscribe, like, and comment immediately. Time to lock in on learning astrology with me for free. Stuff that no other astrologer is going to sit here and talk about. So this is for section B, Western astrological techniques. If you've seen my other videos, we went over our first section, which is quantum astrology principles. And now we're on 3. So a stellium is not merely a collection of planets in one house. It is a quantum field where multiple probability waves interact, creating interference patterns that manifest as life themes. For example, this native has Sun, Mercury, Venus, and Uranus in Pisces within the 11th house, 24 degrees 56 Aquarius to 24 degrees 56 Pisces. And here's what we need to do. We need to provide an in-depth analysis. Alright. First, we need to calculate the exact orb of each planet to the others in the stellium, create a table showing all conjunctions and their orbs, then explain how these tight orbs create a coherent quantum system where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Next, we need to analyze each planet's role in the quantum field, so we know the Sun's at 8 degrees 09 Pisces in the core identity wave, Mercury at 18 degrees 31 Pisces, the information carrier, Venus at 0 degrees 02 Pisces, the resonance frequency, and Uranus at 6 degrees 50 Pisces, which is the quantum jump operator. We need to explain how these 4 functions interact to manifest the native's wealth potential through technology and healing, and we use the metaphor of quantum field theory. Next, the 11th house is ruled by Uranus and Aquarius traditionally, and Saturn modernly. However, Uranus is inside the stellium. We need to discuss the recursive paradox. The ruler of the house is contained within the house it rules. How does this create a self-referential quantum loop that accelerates manifestation? And finally, propose a specific date between 2026 through 2030 when a transit will activate the stellium to maximize wealth potential, calculate the exact transit, explain why this date is significant, and predict the nature of the wealth manifestation. Include progressions in your analysis. Okay, now we're getting deep and detailed. And it's only going to get more detailed on this channel. Alright. I might be able to record the rest of these videos tonight if I don't be lazy. Alright, so here we are. First, let's introduce the stellium as quantum coherence. In quantum physics, a coherent system is one where multiple waves maintain fixed phase relationships, allowing them to interfere constructively and produce amplified effects. A stellium, which is 3 or more planets in the same sign and house, represents astrological coherence. Multiple planetary functions operating on the same frequency in the same domain of life, creating an intensified field of potential. So, our native, the 11th house is packed because it's a Pisces stellium. It's comprising the Sun, Mercury, Venus, and Uranus. It's not merely a cluster of planets, but a quantum field generator, a region of space-time where probability amplitudes are magnified, entanglement is enhanced, and manifestation occurs at accelerated rates. This essay will analyze the stellium structure, function, and activation, demonstrating how it generates the native's wealth potential through technological innovation and collective healing. Alright, our first part, orb calculations and coherent system analysis. First, we have our table of conjunctions and orbs. So the stellium spans from Venus and Pisces at 0 degrees 02, so just the beginning of it, to Mercury at 18 degrees 31 Pisces. It's a total range of 18 degrees 29 All planets are within an orb of conjunction with each other, though some orbs are wider than others, and below is a complete matrix of conjunctions with exact orbs. We look at our planet pair degrees in the orb applying and separating. So Venus, 0 degrees 02, Uranus, 6 degrees 50, 6 degrees 48, 6 degrees 48, applying. And then again we have Venus, Sun, and this time it's at 8 degrees 07 applying. Venus and Mercury, it's 18 degrees 29 applying. Uranus and the Sun, it's 1 degrees 19 applying. Okay. Next, we have Uranus at 6 degrees 50 with Mercury, 18 degrees 31. It leads to 11 degrees 41 and it's applying. And Sun again with Mercury leads to 10 degrees 22 and it's applying. Okay, and those are our orbs, which are very important. Okay, here's the critical observations. First, we have our tightest orb. Then we have our widest orb in our applying nature. This is how we work with orbs. So, Uranus and the Sun at 1 degrees 19, it's applying and it creates the most intense entanglement in the stellium. This pair functions almost as a single planet because the sudden breakthroughs of Uranus directly infuse the core identity, which is the Sun. And then we have Venus, Mercury at 18 degrees 29, and it pushes the boundary of accepted conjunction orbs, which is typically 10 degrees through 12 degrees for outer planets, and 8 through 10 degrees for inner. However, in a stellium context, the collective coherence allows wider orbs to remain significant because the intermediate planets, Uranus, the Sun, bridge the gap. Now, the applying nature, all conjunctions are applying, meaning the planets are moving toward exactness. This indicates that the stellium's power is increasing over time. The native's potential in this area grows stronger as she ages. Alright. Now we make this into a coherent system analysis. Quantum system is coherent when all components maintain phase relationships. In the stellium, the phase relationships are maintained through the Venus-Uranus-Sun chain. Venus, Uranus, Sun forms a chain with gaps of 6 degrees 48 and 1 degrees 19. The chain transmits frequency from Venus, values, love, beauty, through Uranus, innovation, disruption, to Sun, identity, purpose. Sun-Mercury bridge. Sun to Mercury at 10 degrees 22 creates a bridge between identity and communication, and this is wide, but maintained by the intermediate presence of no other planets. The gap itself becomes a resonant cavity. Venus-Mercury span despite the wide 18 degrees 29 orb. Venus and Mercury are connected through the entire chain. In quantum terms, this is entanglement through intermediate measurement. The state of Venus affects Mercury via the Uranus-Sun chain, even without direct interaction. Now, we look at the whole greater than sum of parts. The stellium functions as a single quantum oscillator with 4 modes. So our first mode is Venus, and it's at 0 degrees 02. That's the fundamental frequency. The ground state of the system operating at the anaretic degree of Aquarius, which is 29 degrees 59 Aquarius, and the whole sign I'll say, actually Venus at 0 degrees 02 Pisces, and it's the threshold between Aquarius and Pisces, between collective and cosmic, and this mode sets the resonance for all others. Mode 2 is Uranus at 6 degrees 50, and that's the first harmonic, the disruptive frequency that breaks symmetry and creates quantum jumps. Uranus at this degree introduces nonlinearity to the system. Mode 3, Sun at 8 degrees 09, second harmonic, The observation frequency the sun measures and collapses the system states. Mode 4 is Mercury at 18 degrees 31, third harmonic. The information frequency, Mercury transmits the results of measurements to the external world. The system's total energy is not the sum of individual planetary energies, but the interference pattern they create together. This interference produces nodes of maximum amplitude at specific degrees where constructive interference occurs. So the primary node, we have 6 degrees 50 through 8 degrees 09 Uranus-Sun conjunction, maximum big breakthrough potential. Our secondary node is 0 degrees 02 Venus, maximum attraction potential, and our tertiary node, 18 degrees 31 Mercury, maximum communication potential. And these nodes are where the native should focus their conscious observation to collapse specific manifestations. Alright, part B, we have 4 planets as quantum field operators. Alright, now, each planet in the stellium functions as a specific operator in the quantum field, transforming probability waves into manifest particles through distinct mechanisms. Of course, we observe the sun, which is at 8 degrees 09 Pisces, right? The observer operator. So in quantum mechanics, the observer need not be conscious. Any measurement apparatus suffices. However, the sun represents conscious identity, the I am presence that performs deliberate observation. At 8 degrees 09 Pisces in the 11th house, the sun functions as an operator function, the projection operator that collapses wave functions upon observation. So when the native consciously directs her attention to any potential within the 11th house field, whether it's a business idea, a network connection, a collective need, the sun's observation collapses that potential into a specific form, and the degree of collapse precision depends on the clarity of her attention. Alright, I kind of went through some of this, but I was just making like some astrology equations. For part C. Because we're talking about Uranus and Saturn here, right? So the 11th house is actually ruled by Uranus, its modern ruler, and Saturn is its traditional ruler. But really, Saturn is happier in the 10th house. So, however, Uranus is inside the 11th house stellium, and it creates a recursive paradox, being the ruler of the house is contained within the house it rules. In quantum terms, this is a self-referential loop, a system that observes itself. Okay? So, in classical logic, a set cannot contain itself. Russell's paradox. In quantum mechanics, however, self-reference is possible. The observer can be part of the observed system, and this is the situation with Uranus in its own house. Okay? The house of gains, networks, and hopes. It's already in there, and therefore Uranus rules itself. So, it creates a feedback loop where the native's innovations, which is Uranus, directly determine her gains, which is the 11th house, and her gains directly influence her capacity for innovation. Alright, the loop amplifies over time. Okay? She has a Uranus insight, it creates value, she receives gains. Gains provide resources, enable more innovation, more gains, more innovation, larger network, collective amplification, and exponential gains. Alright? So in quantum field theory, self-interaction terms in the Lagrangian produce renormalization effects. The system's properties are adjusted by its own interactions. Alright, similarly, Uranus in the 11th house means her innovative capacity is constantly renormalized by her gains, and her gains are constantly renormalized by her innovations. And we model it as the following. As you can see, it may look complicated, but G is literally just gains, and U is Uranus, innovation, and F and G are functions. And this recursive relationship produces either exponential growth or chaotic oscillation depending on the coupling constants. For this native with Venus and Sun also in the 11th, the coupling is positive, and the system is designed for exponential growth rather than chaos. Alright. This is what we'll do. Transit activation date for maximum wealth potential. What I would also give to any client that I worked with. So based on their chart and current transits, you identify a specific date when a major transit will activate that 11th house stellium for maximum wealth manifestation. So our selected date is March 15th through the 20th of 2028 when Jupiter is in Aries and it's conjuncting Rahu, north node of the moon. So Jupiter, which is the planet of expansion, wealth, and luck, transits Aries at 25 through 26 degrees and it's conjunct Rahu in Aries at 25 degrees 19 in my natal 12th house, while simultaneously activating the 11th house stellium by aspect. So in 2028, it'll actually be 23. So first we look at Jupiter's position and aspects. So by March 2028, Jupiter will be at approximately 25 through 26 degrees Aries, and from this position, Jupiter will trine my 11th house stellium, Pisces, by sign basic aspect, Aries fire trine Pisces water. Actually, Aries and Pisces are not trine, they're like 30 degrees apart, which is semi-sextile. So that our correction is Aries at 25 degrees to Pisces at 8 degrees is 47 degrees difference, too wide for major aspect, and then we have to recalculate this properly. It's okay to make mistakes during astrology. We learn from them, and we grow and we become better. So, we'll say November 15th through the 20th, but it's still 2028, and there's still a lot of stuff going on. So yeah, we would just do something like that. And yeah, I hope you guys learned something from this. I do want to talk about progressions really quick. We're still on the dates. Alright, let's talk about progressions really quick. So, by June 2027, progressed moon will be at approximately, we need the exact time for that, but even without exact progression calculation, we can note that progressed moon will have moved about 22 years, multiplied by 1 degrees per year, equaling 22 degrees from its natal 6 degrees 14 Libra, placing it around possibly 28 degrees Libra without knowing the time, possibly activating the vertex, which is at 24 degrees 03 Libra, or Jupiter at 17 degrees 55 Libra by conjunction, further supporting the manifestation of wealth. Alright? Subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this. And I will see you in the next one talking more astrology with peace and love.